Good morning, gearheads, and welcome to the Speed City F1 on SiriusXM pre-race show for the 2023 Formula One Singapore Grand Prix. F1 is under the lights in Marina Bay Circuit as the sport's original night race returns, and Carlos Sainz is on pole for the second week in a row for Ferrari. But this week, there's no Red Bull in the top 10 for the first time since 2018. This is John Massengale. I am the gentleman driver of the team, if you will, but I am joined by the professionals, some of the most iconic commentators in motorsport, and sitting across from me here in the studio in Austin, Texas, one of the most recognizable voices up and down your motorsport radio and TV dial, and booming over PA speakers at race circuits across the world, Jonathan Green.
Good morning.
Oh, no! Oh, mayhem!
Good morning, Jonathan. You ready to watch the sunrise with me?
Heck yeah.
And from his studio headquarters in Atlanta, the man who needs no introduction to Formula One fans, America's voice of motorsport, Bob Varsha. Good morning to you, Bob. Is it coffee or tea in your mug this morning?
No, actually, it's coffee, and lots of it. And may I point out that at least my seat is warm. I know Greeny's is only just.
You got to get the
studio.
optimum temperature, Bob. Always. It's hot out there. It's hot out there this morning.
And Chris Medland, and joining us from Marina Bay Circuit in Singapore, one of the most popular F1 journalists in the world, and helping us bring the age demographic down, Mr. Chris Medland. Chris, how are you, buddy?
I'm flattered by that introduction. I'm also so confused hearing you guys talk about early morning, and it's 7 p.m. here, and it's getting dark. So, yeah, this is the proper time zone challenge that we've got. But I am very good and excited for this one. I think this is going to be fun.
Well, yes, we are very excited. And Chris, you got some news I want you to bring us. But yes, Jonathan Green's chair was just warmed up literally as I was about to introduce him. That is fantastic timing, Jonathan. Couldn't be better, sir.
I try.
Hey, Chris, I was awakened to the Twitter sphere of news about Lance Stroll this morning for us.
Yeah, anyone who has to put up with my little bulletins on the sports updates on SiriusXM would have heard yesterday that I said he'd need to be cleared to race today. And that was partly because it was such a big crash that he was going to have to see how he was feeling, essentially, the next morning. He would have to be checked by a doctor as well if there are any adverse effects. And Aston Martin has taken the joint decision with Lance to withdraw him from today's race. So the car was being rebuilt and would have been ready in time, but it was a big job. But the team were a long way down that road. But Lance woke up feeling very sore from the accident, and they decided that it was best that he did not participate today and instead focuses on Suzuka, which, of course, is only next weekend. So, yeah, 19 cars starting the race, of which 18 will be on the grid because Zhou Guanyu has changed his power unit as well and will start from the pit lane.
Yeah, Bob Varsha, what do you think about that? I guess it's really not that surprising, huh?
Well, no, and I was prepared until Chris gave us the bulletin. I was prepared to believe that they just gave up on trying to rebuild a car or build up a whole new chassis, which is what we thought might happen yesterday. But I can certainly understand why Stroll is feeling a little less than optimum this morning. Chris, I'll ask you, did they release any G-force figure in that crash?
Not yet, no. That is one that we will actually keep asking. But I think because the team themselves didn't really look into it too heavily in terms of the physics of the crash, they just started working on what needs repairing. So, yeah, I'll just let you know, listeners, that I'm getting a treat right now that you guys don't get to see, but I'm walking to the Haas garage just before the pit lane opens. I've just been escorted straight through a live F1 garage to hopefully chat to Gunter Steiner in a bit. So what that has allowed me to do is get into the pit lane in plenty of time. I might actually go to see if anyone from Aston Martin will answer that question right at this moment. G-force. Why don't we try that, shall we?
Yeah.
And I've also set myself up for a fail.
Don't let it obscure the main story of the weekend thus far, which is no Red Bulls in the top 10. And you mentioned that 2018 figure in Russia, John. That was due to grid penalties, due to powertrain issues and replacements. They haven't been there due to a lack of pace. In other words, just eliminated on merit in Q2 since 2008 in Brazil, when the drivers were David Coulthard and Mark Webber.
That is a stunning stat, isn't it? That's
Isn't that amazing?
incredible.
Right.
Yeah.
15 years.
Wow.
Absolute madness. Absolute madness. I mean, one thing we did talk about, and I will try and get Christian Horner later on the show as well, was the fact that there's this technical directive this weekend that maybe could have played a part, but got an explanation from Paul Monahan, who one of the engineers at Red Bull was speaking earlier today. He was saying essentially the way that this circuit works with low speed but short duration corners means that you don't put a lot of energy into the tyres. Now, Red Bull are very good at actually not putting much energy in the tyres. That's why their tyres last so well in a race. But in qualifying, you need to put some energy into the tyres to get them up to temperature, to get them in the working range that everyone talks about, to get the lap time out of it. And essentially, their setup wasn't right from the start of the weekend. They couldn't get the tyres working. They started making the wrong decisions trying to get the tyres working, and have ended up with a car with a bad setup, and the tyres didn't work. So they felt, and Andreas Stella backed this up, the technical directive would maybe have played a tiny part, but not a major one. So in that sense, that could have maybe cost them a little bit of time, but that this was a much bigger drop off, wasn't it, from Red Bull? That seems to suggest they're totally out the window with their car.
That could they? I mean, one idea was last night that they could actually throw it all apart and fix the car, but start at the back. Was that ever thought of?
It didn't sound like it, based on the fact that Max is starting 11th. Now, it's one place to get into the points, but you only need a little bit of chaos at turn one that you hopefully avoid. But you could be up 4, 5, 6 places. It's so hard to overtake here. If you commit to starting from the pit lane or completely, even further back, then at that stage you're actually, you're making life a lot harder without something remarkable. So no, they're going to stay in the pack. They've also got both cars there. Paul Monahan again was saying, well, we haven't raced yet. Everyone's written us off, but you never know how these races can go. So wait and see. And at this point, it's going to be about whether they can make a clean start and make some early positions, and then they might come into the frame. You never know.
And there is always at least one safety car in Singapore.
Yeah, good point. Just like we were not surprised to see a safety car in qualifying too. So, Jonathan, do you really think that this is going to be the race that Red Bull does not win? Do you really? I mean, it's almost
I
hard to
do. Yes, I do.
Okay.
Because both the Ferraris and Mercedes, and to a certain extent McLaren, are on it. And I mean, if they fail, given these opportunities, or given where Red Bull are, then something's definitely wrong, because they've all moved forward. I mean, there was nothing between Russell and Sainz for the pole. Sainz is on good form. He goes well here. Russell is due a win. Mercedes haven't had one. And McLaren's upgrades have worked.
Yep. Good point.
Yeah, I agree with Greeny. I think I mentioned it yesterday in our post-qualifying show. Verstappen's radio transmissions seem to show such general frustration on his part. He's not that good an actor, I don't think.
No.
So he's not bagging. I think he is genuinely lost, if that's the right word, with the car. And the gap to the Ferraris is really pretty substantial, several tenths of a second a lap. That, given what Chris has already told us about how they just seem to be scratching their heads about getting the car set up right. This sounds like the real deal, and I agree that this could be the race that they failed to win.
Hey, Chris, what's going on? What's going on? Oh, go ahead. If you had some comments on that.
I've just made my way onto the grid, ready for the pit lane to open. So the Aston Martin pit wall was completely full, and they're focusing now on the car and its data for Alonso going to the grid in a sec. So it was the wrong time to try and doorstep someone about the G-forces, but I will try that on the grid. The way it kind of works with the format of the build up to the race, everyone kind of goes to work to look at the cars while they're running, a few laps through the pit lane, checking everything works. They're getting a feel for grip levels from the track, but they're checking on the systems as well. Once they do that, the cars come onto the grid about 40 minutes before lights out. And that's where everyone else then comes onto the grid, because there's not a lot you can do, as a team principal, for example, or even some of the engineers looking at data on the pit wall when the car's no longer running. As long as you've checked everything, it's fine. So they're in their busy 10, 15, 20-minute period here. And then from what will be 20 past the hour local time, so 40 minutes till lights out, is when we should be able to get answers from people directly. And in explaining that, I've completely lost the thread of where we were at. I was going to point out something else as well.
Well, I mean, essentially, Chris.
Red Bull.
Yeah, just, can we really expect Red Bull not to win this race?
Yes. Yeah. Thank you for saying me there, John. I was going to say, if they do win this race, and I know a lot of people will be like, not again, surely not this time, unless they're a big Red Bull fan. But if they do win this race, it's going to be one heck of a race. It's going to be sensational.
Good point.
So I I'd actually say there's a chance, say it'd be great for Carlos Sainz if he wins this race. And I actually think that's the most likely outcome. I think whoever leads out of turn 1 today wins the race, but it'll be a tense one. I think it'll be get the timing of your pit stop right, hold on to track position. And yeah, it'll be tense to the end, but the track position will be what wins it. If you get Max Verstappen or Sergio Perez winning today's race, something crazy happens and it will be highly entertaining at the very least. So, adversely, where people are probably desperate for some variety in a race winner, I think probably one of the better race winners today would be a Red Bull driver from where they're starting. So I feel like we can't lose today in that sense. I think this one's set up just so well.
Chris, what's the weather been like? Has it been dry all day?
It has, yeah. There was a little bit of a shower earlier today, like more than 3 hours ago now, where the wet dry indicator that the FIA give us, it's just for such a high-tech sport, you get a graph and it's basically on or off. It's numbered 1 and 0, and 1 means it's wet, it's been raining, the track's now wet. 0 means it's not raining anymore, it's now dry. So yeah, that's as simple as it goes. And there was a good chunk of number 1, which meant it deemed the track wet for maybe a 20-minute spell about 3 hours ago, but nothing now. There's some pretty heavy thunderstorms up towards Malaysia, which is north of where we are here in Singapore, and they're kind of moving across the north of the city. They don't seem to be threatening the track. So there's always a chance in this climate that something can bubble up, but we're expecting a dry race. I think the risk now has dropped to about 20% chance of rain.
Yeah, so we might have a little bit of a green track there if that happens. So, but yes, sir. Let's take a look, Chris. I was going to ask you. You said you were going to try to catch up with Gunther. I mean, how exciting is that for Haas F1 yesterday? Qualifying 6 and 9. I mean, Kevin Magnussen needed this good qualifying, didn't he?
Absolutely, he did. It's been the Nico Hulkenberg show on a Saturday, really, hasn't it, for this season? Whereas it was the Kevin Magnussen show pretty much all of last year. So I think he's been a little bit unsettled with it. But again, dare I say it, one area that they seem to improve there, and I'm sure I can ask Gunther to verify this, but some upgrades they brought in Zandvoort, they think actually are having a bigger impact here, and they've kind of got on top of some front wing tweaks that may well have helped. But also it shows that this is a very unique circuit. It's about being confident in the car, the driver being comfortable, but also the setup is, on a knife edge. And if you've got it right, you're going to be getting good lap time out of it. And if you're slightly off, then that confidence drains away and it compounds how much lap time you're losing. It's not just the car's not quite as quick as it could be, but the driver then isn't able to drive it as quickly as they'd like either. And that's a bigger issue on a street circuit like this. So I just feel like Magnussen seems to have hit the sweet spot with the setup a little bit more. We're seeing it Mercedes too. George Russell over Lewis Hamilton, exactly the same thing. George seems much more dialed in this weekend than Lewis has been over the last 3 days. But Lewis has tended to have the upper hand in most races over the summer. So, it just shows it's a very particular circuit here.
I'd be tempted to say that it's the Ferrari resurgence that is helping the Ferrari teams, but poor old Alfa Romeo is still floundering around. So I guess we can't put it down to Ferrari power.
Yeah. All right, well, let's go ahead and squeeze in our first break. And when we come back, I've got a few clips here from post-qualifying yesterday, and there's an interesting one from Max Verstappen. So we'll hear from Max right after this. Okay, we're still live on YouTube and Facebook, checking in with the boys and girls out there. Kevin Kelly's here. Hey, KK. TW is here. He says he may not be here for long. He's traveling. Stephen Tate says, does anyone know why I can't watch this live on F1 TV at the moment? I don't know of any problems with that. Let's see. Who else? I think that's it for the moment. A bit early, but thanks, everybody. We got about a few people watching. Let's see. And Casey, you got my clips all ready to go. Rock and roll. Great. Casey's our illustrious producer. Chris, I'm looking at the TV and it looks a little bit quiet on the grid.
First car is just showing up. So yeah, it's just gonna get busy now. There's a few cars in the pit lane, but Fernando Alonso's about to roll past into his grid slot. So we'll start seeing more team personnel coming out here too. So when we're back for break, hopefully we can grab an interview or three.
Okay. Well, I'm going to get this one from Max, and I thought it was interesting the way his comments at the very end of this little 45-second clip.
That viewer who was wondering about F1 TV, I'm watching it. I just turned it on and it came right up. So
okay, yeah, we actually have ESPN.
He hasn't paid the meter.
Yeah,
yeah, we didn't have it
they
for
might
a week,
be trying
didn't
to
we?
watch on ESPN, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, no, that deal's now been sorted.
Yeah. We got a new comment on YouTube. Kofi Dixon says, I wish George Russell and Lewis Hamilton and Mercedes teams well and good race. That would be.
I've got a feeling that George is.
I mean, he certainly got a shot at it today.
Yeah.
Here we go. Coming back.
Hello to everyone, this is Gunther Steiner, this is Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
CrowdStrike presents Driven in 60 as the official cybersecurity partner of the Mercedes-AMG Petronas Formula One team. CrowdStrike protects against cyber threats so the team can focus on what matters, their next win. The revolutionary crowd-native unified CrowdStrike Falcon platform harnesses the speed and power of the cloud to protect and defend organizations of all sizes against increasingly complex threats, stopping breaches before they happen, because on and off the track, the stakes couldn't be higher. A split second can make the difference between victory and defeat. When every second counts, protection shouldn't slow you down. It should fuel your momentum. CrowdStrike, protection at every turn. To learn more and to try CrowdStrike Falcon free today, visit crowdstrike.com/XM. All right, I said we were going to hear from Max Verstappen because he had some interesting comments about his qualifying immediately after qualifying yesterday.
I mean, FP3 I think was already a little bit better. I think we were heading in the right direction actually, but then we changed a few more things, thinking that we could do it in the setup, it would allow us, but it ended up being, I think, too aggressive where I was just sliding around a lot in every corner. Lost a lot of front grip as well. Every time in the big braking zones I was bottoming out a lot, so that was then unloading the front tires. So then I couldn't really hit the brakes like I wanted to. I basically had to do like a really gentle approach, otherwise the car would go down too much, and you know that doesn't work on a street circuit. So yeah, it was really, really difficult.
I think you've got to see the stewards for a couple of impeding process as well, so you get a bit busy off race. But what can you achieve tomorrow? Because the race pace from what we saw yesterday was pretty good.
I don't think we will be able to do much. I mean, around here, it will most likely be a one-stop if nothing crazy happens. Passing, you need to be a lot faster, and I don't think we are. So yeah, very, very shocking experience. Yeah,
shocking.
He's genuinely, yeah. I mean, like you said, he's not the best actor in the world, and I think that was real.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah. A shocking.
I can provide an update actually as
Red
well
Bull's
on
not going to win the race.
The impeding question there that got asked of Max.
Yeah.
So there were 3 occasions that he was investigated. One was for holding everyone up in the pit lane. He just waited to go out on track. One was for then potentially getting in Logan Sargent's way when there was a huge gaggle of cars at the end of the lap. And then one was for impeding Yuki Tsunoda on a flying lap at the end of Q1, I believe that was. And in the end, it might have been Q2 actually, that last one. But in the end, he was given a reprimand for the pit lane incident and a reprimand for the Tsunoda incident, and no further action for this Sargent one, where Logan also said he actually felt Max didn't impede him and did the right thing by not moving because it was all a bit chaotic, and just being predictable was the best thing. So, yeah, that surprised a few people because
surprised me.
Certainly the Tsunoda one. Yeah, the Tsunoda one looks a slam dunk. But they also had a look at Sargent, who impeded Stroll in Q1 and gave him a reprimand for that as well. And a lot of the mitigating factors that were part of those decisions were a lack of communication from the teams. So the teams themselves got fined for not telling their drivers about approaching cars. So, as much as it seemed to be a lot of fans were kind of thinking there was some Red Bull bias there, what's frustrating is it's inconsistent.
Yeah.
But not yesterday. It wasn't inconsistent. They took the same approach to everyone yesterday. They haven't done that all year, which is the frustration. But yesterday, they went for reprimands across the board.
Well, that was the question I had.
I
You've
had
answered
some
it.
problems
Thank you.
with that myself. They're getting mad at the teams for not telling the drivers that cars are approaching on hot laps from behind. But isn't that pretty much always the reason for impeding? And yet they hand out 3-place grid penalties to some guys. And in this case, repeated offenses by Max Verstappen get reprimands.
I mean, Yuki made a mistake in the end, which really caused his problem, but he was on for Q3 with Lawson.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was. He went straight on. I'm not sure the turn, actually, but Lawson said he saw just a car head off into the shadows. Unfortunately, it didn't distract him. Then the yellow flags hadn't come out yet when that happened, so it didn't impede his own lap. But yeah, that he wasn't aware why Yuki went straight on at that point. But yeah, that ruined his own lap and cost him a place in the top 10 as well. So another one to watch out for there. Sonoda out of position. There's quite a few cars here that'll be looking to make some moves and are not afraid of trying to.
Hey, speaking of reprimands, we haven't touched on this, I don't think, on Wheel to Wheel or anything. And Bob, you brought it up in our show doc about Helmut Marko being reprimanded.
Yeah, that was a bizarre situation. Going back a week or so, Helmut Marko, for those who aren't who don't know, made some comments to the Red Bull proprietary TV channel, Service TV, and made some comments about Sergio Perez's nationality, saying, well, you know, he's from, and he got this part wrong geopolitically. He's from South America, and implying that was the reason why Sergio wasn't a very good qualifier, because he doesn't have the focus of a Max Verstappen. Of course, people got all bent out of shape, some like me, because a guy like Helmut Marko doesn't know that Mexico is in North America and not South America. But, you know, the obvious, insult to, or perceived insult to Mexicans everywhere, got him in hot water, and they wound up giving him a warning, essentially. He came back and apologized at first on that same TV network, which kind of pissed me off, because I thought he at least looked the guy in the eye and tell him he was sorry. And apparently, eventually, he did that. And Perez said he was okay with it. He knew what Helmut Marko meant. So they, consider it a closed case. But yeah, for a guy.
Yeah, that's been a talking point over a lot of the weekend. But try to switch tack right now. But I'm going to go to a talking point that I think a lot of American fans want us to talk about.
Yes.
With how Haas is getting on. I've got Gunther Steiner with me, and Gunther, we've walked from the front of the grids to your lead car, which is only on the third row. Kevin Magnussen here in 6th place. I mean, firstly, what such a great job that Kevin did yesterday.
Yeah, both drivers, they all did a good job yesterday. But, the last races, we struggled with our car, which isn't where we wanted to be. But this is a specific track, which are a lot of very tight 90-degree corners. It seems to suit the car better. And if the car is okay, we can deliver this. I mean, now we need to keep it together in the race, which is the next difficult bit to do. But I think we put ourselves in this place, and it's already good. It shows that when you work hard, you can get some results.
Well, we've also had it when you've been very quick in qualifying, maybe with one car, but not with both. So was it just the team executing better, the drivers? What was the reason for that?
No, I think it's mainly Kevin, which on the fast corners, he has no confidence in the car. So obviously, if you have no confidence in the car, going around 200 miles an hour a turn is difficult. So but here he had confidence in the car because the car behaves better, and that's why he pulled it off.
Well, yeah, it certainly has. As we stand next to the car right now, because this is a tough place to overtake, can you stay here today? Is this a case that even if you struggle for race pace, you can hold on?
If I just would know, that's what we will try to do. But it's even if it's hard to overtake, if your tires degrade too much, you can still overtake him. But obviously, that is what we will be play on. And, try to, if we have a higher degradation than the other ones, just to keep the other ones behind us, which, it's easier here, but it's never easy.
Well, strategically, though, you helped by the fact you have both cars in the top 10?
Yeah, if we can keep them after the start, something like this, it always helps to have somebody which can cover the other one.
Well, good luck today, and we'll hopefully come and annoy you after the race when you got some points on the board.
Hopefully. Thank you.
Sounds like old Gunther is pegging the energy meter already.
Yeah, he's good. He's on it. I'm happy for him.
It's now getting loud here on the grid as well. It's that point where, as I was trying to explain with the way it kind of builds up, we now have every car on the grid, every team boss, every team member. Speaking of, I can see another team boss. I don't know if he's up for a chat. He is up for a chat. It's Zach Brown, who is in front of Lando Norris's car here on the second row, Zach. Upgraded car this weekend as well. I mean, it feels like the momentum just keeps rolling for McLaren at the moment.
Yeah, team's doing a great job. Disappointed Oscar got his didn't get his lap in, because I think he would have been much closer to the front, but the upgrades are working great. Lando's making the most of them, and I think we have a good shot today.
And what do you mean by a good shot? Are we talking to win a race? Do you have the pace to fight Ferrari? Because there's no Red Bull in the picture today.
I wouldn't rule Red Bull out for starters. It's going to be tight. I think we probably need a little bit of lady luck. So I would say podium's a more realistic expectation, but let's see.
Well, how proud are you, though, of the job? We know that the upgrades are on Lando's car and that they'll be on Oscar's car next weekend in Suzuka. But for the team to still be here in this position after the upgrades of the mid-season, keeping pace with Mercedes, Ferrari, Aston Martin, how proud are you of that?
They're very proud. All the men and women at McLaren done such a great job. And, you know, designing the stuff, getting it to work, getting it on the car, and then proving it out is no small mean feat.
Yeah, they've done a great job. Good luck today.
Thank you.
Nice job, Chris. You got the boss of the American team and an American team boss.
Yeah.
There we go. Job done. I'll go and sit down now.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah,
take a rest.
I'll find a fan. Yeah. Don't worry, I'm moving forwards. I did try and line up an interview with Carlos Sainz, but if anyone who listens to the show regularly remembers, I chatted to him, I think in maybe Zandvoort, maybe it was Spa. I can't remember which race it was. We got him leaving the grid. I've since been told that the drivers do not do pre-race interviews and that Carlos was just being very nice to me, but not to do it again. So I'm afraid we can't hear from Carlos, but I have my eye on someone else, and I'm not too sure if I'm able to or not. No, it's Fred Vasseur, which we'll try and get later on after Ferrari win, they say.
Chris, we're watching the television coverage, and they're featuring the food there. It looks amazing.
Oh yeah, that bit is good. Well, that was quite the whiplash, though, wasn't it? Tried to get you the team principal of the team on pole, and we're talking food instead. But it is. It's a great atmosphere at this race. I think we're going to get some of it in Vegas in a few weeks' time. But right now, actually, what's blasting out is Kings of Leon are playing live in the build-up, I think, to the race. So because it's a late race, they go with the music ahead of time. So fans here are getting to go to a music concert and then take their seats because you don't have to go far. So to watch a Grand Prix for a few hours at 8 o'clock at night. It's a bizarre but incredible spectacle.
The Kings in the Lion City. I like it.
Good.
All right, Jonathan, what about your buddy, Liam Lawson? You have just been ecstatic ever since you got him on our show before he even knew he was going to Formula One. Excuse me.
I keep saying it because it was the perfect storm in terms of the window he got. He told us when he came on the show he did not want the poison chalice of being the replacement for De Vries, even though that could have been his shot at Formula One. But after the fact, when Ricciardo got the job, he was like, I was not ready to be thrown in and put on that pressure. But
apparently he was.
But throw it down the other way with no pressure and the fact that Ricciardo is injured and he steps up to help the team, and he has more than helped the team.
Yeah, it's almost like he didn't really have anything to lose. It was,
exactly. And I think the fact that he's been given not just one, because remember he was thrown in that weekend after first practice, so he didn't even get a full run. Monza was a full run, and this is a full run. He's not raced here, but he claims that on the sim, this is his favorite track. He's brought his parents to see it. He was promised by his dad to go to this race years ago, but never came.
Oh, that's awesome.
And as New Zealanders, this is probably one of the closest Grand Prix outside of Australia that they could go to. So this is a definite destination for Kiwis. And there's another little bit of history. I was going to tell you about the history later, but Graham Lawrence won the Singapore Grand Prix in the late 60s and early 70s, 3 times in a row, a Kiwi. So it's got some history for Kiwis.
So do we have points on order for Mr. Lawson today?
I really do think that one thing he's done in this last couple of races is keep his nose clean and just do a good job. He's not done, he's not looked at one point as though he were in trouble. And the fact that he out-qualified effectively Verstappen to get into Q3 has got to be a huge fill-up for him and confidence builder for him. And obviously out-qualifying Yuki, even though Yuki made a mistake. But that's how you get up the board, is not making a mistake. And he hasn't done that yet. So if he could do that again, absolutely. 10th place, if not higher, could be on.
Mm-hmm. Okay,
yeah, he's got a time when he risks things, and I think he's timed it well so far. He was pushing in practice and had one spin, and that was it. So that's one of those where you've really got to admire the way that Lawson's built up. And I know he's really impressed Daniel Ricciardo's team. Actually, they've been working with him this weekend, seeing him up close now, Ricardo's here in an engineering capacity. And yeah, they've been very, very impressed with the job that Lawson's done. Now, John, I know I just cut you off there. Sorry, but it's because I'm next in line to grab Christian Horner as well. So apologies to Casey for delaying a break, but I thought we'd make sure we don't miss him in this gap.
Now, go ahead. If you got him,
get some.
Well, Chris, while you're waiting, I will remind everybody that you told us on Wheel to Wheel that there was more of a possibility of a Ricardo Lawson combination for next year, and that's been picked up by F1 Pro because they said so, and Sky also felt the same way, that Yuki could well find himself, if he's not careful, in a reserve role.
Yeah, and well, I don't think it's him doing anything wrong though. For that,
I don't.
It would show that Red Bull want to see him up close in a different way and benchmark Liam against Daniel, because
I agree.
Like Daniel's team don't want to see Liam now miss out next year with the job he's done so far. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. But we'll focus on the cars directly behind Liam right now. I've got Christian Horner, and Christian, very rare that we're stood so far back on the grid. Firstly, can you try and explain in layman's terms why the car hasn't been strong here this weekend?
Well, I wish in layman's terms I could. I mean, the reality is we really don't understand. That's a car that won at Monza 2 weeks ago, and it's a car that won at Zandvoort the week before that. In fact, all the other races. And we've struggled here. And to be honest with you, we don't really understand why. So, but I think our race pace, could be okay. But let's see what we can do with it.
Yeah, one question or topic some people have mentioned is the technical directive that was brought in. Has that had any impact as far as you're aware?
Well, no, because we haven't had to change anything. So absolutely nothing to do with that. In many respects, it'd be easier to explain it. But, no, nothing to do with that.
Well, and then, as you say, still a race to run, still could end up somewhere near the front. But how difficult will it be to make any progress today on this circuit?
Well, look, the probability, and all statistically, we have absolutely no chance. But we've never followed any form of rationality in anything that we do. So anything's possible. And, with the two drivers that we've got at this track, anything can happen.
Any part of you that's excited to take on this challenge today?
So we're going to give it absolutely 120%. We've got nothing to lose. I say the drivers, go out there, have some fun, do your best, and let's see where we are at the end.
We're looking forward to watch it. Thank you very much.
Wow. Okay. That was a little bit of honesty there. We don't know why. We have no idea why.
I mean, what I love about Christian and Vassar is they do say it like it is, and that's really refreshing for Formula One. You don't get in this Ron speak that we used to get from McLaren, and Bob knows what I'm talking about, and so does Chris. It's just the way it goes.
Yep. All right. Well, we're going to
suboptimal weekend.
Yep. All right. Well, coming up right after this, we're going to hear from Lewis Hamilton. Because right after qualifying, he sounded a little bit down. You listen to Speed City. Back after these messages. I'm going to tweet that out just now, live on our show. Christian Horner. We don't know why. What did he say? We don't.
We don't really understand why. I wrote it down.
Good.
What did he say about we don't always do things rationally or something?
Yeah,
that? It caught my ear.
Yeah, I mean, there's no question that they're at 6s and 7s. The problem they've got is that they lowered the car, and now with a full fuel load, they're going to struggle because if, like you said, Verstappen admitted that they went too aggressive to try and keep the temperature in the tyres for qualifying, but now in race trim, where they don't necessarily need that, they've still got the same cars they had yesterday. So, it means that being, like he said, he'll almost have to be gentle for the first half of the race on braking. Otherwise, it'll bottom out.
Well, we know they've got great race pace, and as Christian said, maybe will boost us today. But and if they're going to be better, it might be with that heavy fuel load early in the race, because if they're having trouble getting energy into the tires when the car is at its heaviest, I would think that would be the best opportunity.
Chris?
I was just going to say that the only things they're able to change as well are tyre pressures and a little bit of wing level, I think, in Parc Fermé. So, yeah, not a lot at all. You could increase tyre pressures just to raise ride height slightly, I think. But even so, there's limits in both directions. And the higher you go, the more likely you are to damage them. So,
and it's not been a good track for Max. Full stop. I mean, I remember when the Red Bulls came together before his time. That was at Singapore, but he's never had a good run here.
Yeah, this is one of those tracks he has not won at.
No.
as he tries to close in on Lewis Hamilton for the most different circuits won at. I think Lewis's number is 31 and Max is around 26 or so.
Coming back.
Hi, this is Karun Chandok, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
The Speed City F1 pre-race show on SiriusXM is brought to you by CrowdStrike. Stop today's most sophisticated cyber attacks at the office, the racetrack, and everywhere in between. Learn more at crowdstrike.com/XM. All right, I want to play this clip from Lewis Hamilton because he sounded a little un-Lewis-like.
Of course, I'd hoped I could get more, but wasn't meant to be today.
What's the car been like to try and get the maximum out of it, and what do you think is possible tomorrow?
Obviously, the car has pace. I just couldn't extract it today from the car to struggle with the balance.
And tomorrow, what do you think is possible?
These guys are ahead of me are quicker, so I don't know if it's possible tomorrow. I'll just try and see if we can have a better day somehow.
Yeah,
sounded pretty down. I had to turn the gain up on that clip. I couldn't even get it to hear his voice.
Mm-hmm. He does tend to do that, though, when he's had a bad day. He tends to be mopey-dopey. And, of course, obviously, he'll put the race face on. This is a track he loves. He always goes well here. He's very quick around here. He's had great results around here. He's still fifth on the grid. A safety car could put him right in the hunt.
Yep. And
you don't get to 103 wins without getting the combination.
You're right, exactly.
An awful lot of the time.
And he, I do say you are right, because he does wear his heart on his sleeve sometimes. He can be, on the team radio, in the car, out of the car. So it's true. It's not terribly unusual, but let's see. Bob, I was looking at some of your facts and stats, and it reminded me that we need to do the grid. And Bob Varsha, the Bob Varsha grid is one of our favorites on the show. So if you're ready, we're ready.
Well,
wait a
before
minute.
Bob goes with it, because I always interrupt him, very quickly, in the break, I managed to grab Mike Crack just to ask him, and he said they did get the G-force numbers on the crash, but they are not releasing them. So whether that's because of the size of it, whether it's because it gives away some sensitive information, whether it's because they only want to say further down the line. But apparently Stroll was starting to feel the effects of it last night. And then part of the decision was, on a track like this, where it's tough to overtake, when you're already starting at the back with a heavily damaged car that needs repairing, and a race next week that could go way better, do you push yourself through the pain barrier like he did in Bahrain, for example, where there were big points on offer, or not? So,
yeah, it was a huge crash. So let's hope he's okay.
Usually the FIA will distribute that. I wonder why they wouldn't. I wonder if he has concussion
protocol
symptoms.
Yeah, who knows? HIPAA
well,
compliance.
I think he passed that concussion test. He did pass that test last night at least. Don't know about further forward than that. So,
well,
in the body is there. You're all right.
Well, go ahead, Bob.
I'm ready when you're ready to go with the grid.
Let's do it.
As soon as I get my granny glasses. Okay, here we go. With a nod to Virtual Statman, thanks very much. Here we go. On the pole, row one, Carlos Sainz in the Ferrari, his first career back-to-back poles as Ferrari continues its resurgence. The seventh for the Scuderia in 14 Singapore starts, way more than any other team. And remember, this is a circuit where Pole has won 8 of the previous 13 races. Next to him, P2, George Russell in the Mercedes, his first front row since round 3 in Melbourne, beating his best Singapore start previously, 18th. On to row 2, Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari starts P3, out-qualified by his teammate in Singapore for the first time, beg your pardon? For the first time in 4 starts, sorry there. Sainz and Leclerc were also 1-3 on the grid 2 weeks ago in Monza. P4, Lando Norris in the McLaren, 4th in this race a year ago, his best ever start in Singapore, clinches his season head-to-head with teammate Oscar Piastri. He leads him 12-3 with only 7 races remaining. Row 3, P5, Lewis Hamilton in the Mercedes, the only driver in the field to have raced in all 14 Singapore GPs, assuming he does so today, which sounds safe, and a 4-time winner of the race. But 5th is his worst ever qualifying position here, which may explain his mopey-dopey attitude, as Jonathan Green said. P6, Kevin Magnussen in the Haas. Only the second time this season the Dane has reached the top 10, the other being Miami. MoneyGram Haas has announced a radical upgrade for Circuit of the Americas next month. I wonder if they might reconsider that based on what they're doing right now. On row 4, P7, Fernando Alonso and the Aston Martin, the old man on the grid, remains the only driver to start top 10 in every race this season. Go Fred. P8, next to him, Esteban Ocon in the Alpine, who missed the top 10 in the last 6 races and was eliminated in Q1 in the last 2 at Zandvoort and Monza, but he has his best ever Singapore start today. Row 5, P9, Nico Hülkenberg in the Haas makes it 2 Haas cars in the top 10 for the first time this season and the first since Austria last year. P10, Liam Lawson in the AlphaTauri. A weird stat of the week. Car 40 was the only chassis that had not reached Q3 this season, despite the efforts of 3 different drivers, including Nick de Vries and Daniel Ricciardo, of course. But in only his 3rd Grand Prix, Lawson did it in style, bumping world champion Max Verstappen in the process. Row 6, P11, Max Verstappen in the Red Bull. Neither Red Bull in the top 10. As I said earlier, that hasn't happened since Russia in 2018 due to grid penalties and not due to pure lack of speed since the final race of 2008. P12, next to Pierre Gasly in the Alpine, leads teammate Ocon by just 1 point for 10th in the Drivers' Championship. That's the closest pair of teammates in the standings. And 21 of Gasly's 37 points have come in just the last 3 races. Row 7, P13, Sergio Perez in the Red Bull announced this week that Red Bull will wait for 2024 to decide on his future with the team. Good thing, because he spun at a crucial moment in qualifying in Singapore and missed Q3 for the 7th time in 14 races this year. P14, Alex Albon of the Williams, whose 5 points finishes this season are the most for a Williams driver since 2017. He's has finished in the points here in Singapore in 2019 for Red Bull and crashed out in 2022 for his current team. Row 8, P15, Yuki Tsunoda in the AlphaTauri, fastest of all in Q2. Japanese driver was then impeded by Verstappen in Q3 and his session fell apart. He didn't get a lap in. Both AlphaTauri seats are rumored to be in play for next year. Next to him, Valtteri Bottas in the Alfa Romeo, coming into this point of the season with his lowest total points since his rookie year for Williams in 2013, but he did reach the podium in Singapore in 2017, his first season with Mercedes. Row 9, Oscar Piastri in the McLaren, knocked out in Q1 for the first time since Miami back in May, thanks to a crash ahead of him on his final lap by Lance Stroll, and finds himself on the short end of the head-to-head in qualifying to teammate Norris. P18, Logan Sargent in the Williams, coming off 2 straight successes in Q1 and making Q3 at Zandvoort. But the American is seeing this tricky circuit for the first time and only qualified worse than this 4 times in 2023. Row 10, not out there on the grid. P19 was to be Zhou Guanyu in the Alfa Romeo, has a new contract for 2024, but they made changes to his powertrain, and so he will start from the pit lane after Alfa saw both cars out in Q1 for the 3rd time this season. Next to him was to be Lance Stroll in the 2nd Aston Martin, who gave a mighty effort, it must be said, in the waning seconds of Q1, but he lost the car in the final corner, crushed it against the barrier, ruining the laps of those behind, including Oscar Piastri, who did well to avoid the wreck. But the car's ready to go, the driver is not, and Aston has chosen to withdraw the entry. So our thoughts are with Lance Stroll. I hope he's healthy.
Hey, Chris Medland, we are going to get our last break in unless you are standing by with someone.
I was actually getting an off-record chat with Daniel Ricciardo in the middle of that. He's not willing to speak on record at the moment because he's still recovering. He's only here in an engineering capacity, so he's not allowed to do any, spoken commitment. But yeah, he was just showing me how his hand's going, the recovery. We're comparing hand injuries. And yeah,
right. You had the same one.
As we spoke about, his was worse. His was much worse, the way his break happened. But he's got the same issue now that he's having to strengthen that grip.
Is he doing any hyperbaric stuff?
He was just kind of in the moment. He's doing a lot of physio, a lot of stuff where he's actually manipulating the finger and the hand himself to try and get it to close properly. And his first test will be once it feels strong enough to get in the sim and see if it allows him to do everything that he needs to do.
Interesting.
All right. Well, coming up, we'll be bringing you the last little bit right before the race because we're about 15 minutes from the race. You listen to Speed City F1. Back after these messages. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. Chris, they're celebrating a moment of silence there in Singapore.
The reason I asked that was because hyperbaric chambers fill you with oxygen and give you a quicker healing process. A lot of the bike riders use it. And it basically, you sit there, breathe in almost pure oxygen, and you sit there for maybe a couple of hours, but it accelerates the healing process, especially for hand injuries.
Well, I saw that Jay Leno did that. Remember when he got burned all over? He did the same thing. He was inside a hyperbaric.
It's not cheap, but I can imagine that I would do that if I were in his situation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What was the moment of silence for? Do we know?
It's for the natural disasters we've had recently in
fair enough.
Morocco and Libya.
Yep.
Good. Gotcha.
So
it's just finished. We're on to anthems now.
It's done. It's finished. Obviously, since you're talking.
Yeah. National anthem time.
Jonathan, when we come back, you had some. You had history.
Historical, Yep.
So let's do some of that. Let's see what else. Just going through our notes here. That is just a mind-blowing stat about Red Bull not being in the top 10 on pace since 2008. That's crazy.
Yeah.
I mean,
and not being in Q3 since 2018. That's a long time ago. It doesn't sound a long time ago, but it's actually 6 years.
Yeah. It's funny. It doesn't, does it?
Yeah, to you and me, 2018 is just a couple of years ago, but actually, now it's the end of 2023. It's a long time ago.
Yeah. Oh, you know what? There's another good clip. Let's play the Magnussen clip when we come back.
Hi, this is Max Verstappen, and you're listening to Speed City.
Welcome back to the fastest hour in radio, Speed City.
All right, we're about 12 minutes from the race where you can listen right here on SiriusXM Channel 81, the BBC coverage of the Singapore Grand Prix, and, of course, our post-race right after that. But I want to play this clip from Kevin Magnussen. Very excited for him to starting P6, best of his season this year. So let's hear from K-Mag.
Yeah, I think, as I said, well, first of all, for whatever reason, the car is stronger on this track. It just, I think, the characteristics of the corners here is, in the best or least bad parts of the car. I think, we're a little lucky that the track is just our track for the car we have right now. But nonetheless, I think, we've done a good job, and we capitalized on the good form of the car. Got both cars into Q3 and starting in a good position tomorrow. We know it's hard to overtake here. I would love to still have the little twisty corners in Sector 3 now that I'm here, but because we know our race pace is not quite there to stay where we are, but maybe on this track there is a chance. It comes with a little extra pressure because it's kind of like, it's like a bit of a one-off chance that you might get, and we really want to grab it and score some points tomorrow.
How much confidence has this given you? I know that the race pace, like you said, is going to be difficult, but you've got yourself an opportunity, haven't you, to really get a big result for you guys?
Yeah, and I'm going to hang on to it. I'm really going to hang on to it. So we'll see tomorrow how it goes. I'm not going to make it easy for anyone.
Great stuff. Best of luck, Kevin. Thank you.
Ominous.
You heard it. I'm not going to make it easy, and K-Mag will live up to that.
He says I'm not going to make it easy. Yeah. He's going to be driving a wide Haas.
His dad's smiling Riley at home somewhere.
No, his dad is actually. Wait, he's not there. I'm sorry. I saw a great photograph of Lando Norris with his dad, and it was really great. His dad had his arm around him. I'll see if I can find it. We'll put it up on YouTube. But,
cool.
What the heck is that outfit we're seeing on television?
Idea. Oh, isn't that Boy George?
I don't know.
It is Boy George, yeah. I've just walked past him.
There you go.
How did you recognize him?
Because he's Boy George.
Very good spot.
you.
I'll admit, I was trying to chase Liam Lawson down the grid, and I think it's got a bit too late now. He's trying to focus on getting in the car. So I wanted to paint a bit of a picture for people, actually, because it's very hot and humid here, very sticky. And as Liam's starting to put on all of his race kit, his trainer is spraying him with a chilled water bottle across his race vest and his chest and things to help just lower that body temperature as much as possible before they get in the car.
Yeah.
Now, I'm just wearing a short sleeve top. I've got, a short sleeve top and some trousers, nice and easy. These guys are wearing, fireproof underwear, fireproof tops, then the race suit on top of that, then a balaclava, then a helmet, then race gloves. Like, there's nowhere for the heat to escape. So that A, they're all trying to put on their race suits last minute, but B, they're trying to lower their temperature as much as they can before they get in the car, because it's just going to go through the roof from here on out. And actually, his trainer's so hot that he's now stolen the ice vest that Liam was wearing and put it on himself. But that shows like the detail and preparation that even at this stage, before they've got the car, they have to go through. And for Liam, he was just going through that process, so I thought I wouldn't interrupt him while he was doing it. But I've noticed about him, we spoke to him, didn't we, in Zandvoort, post-qualifying, and I think pre-race. And it was all new and exciting to him, but he's very quickly got himself into this mindset of, he's focused very early. He kind of gets on a set of headphones, listens to his music, and just closes off from everyone very early on, which you could certainly understand as a driver who has very little experience on this grid and is about to go and take on what's physically the toughest race on the calendar, but also he's got to do that from 10th on the grid when there's points on offer. So he's even getting like a fist bump now from someone from Red Bull as well, just saying good luck to him. Like, they're watching very closely what he does here, because he is impressed massively. Although that does mean one of the last people he saw was someone in a Red Bull uniform, and the first car behind him is someone called Max Verstappen. So make of that what you will.
He's so mature. He's got these mature processes too, but he's so mature. Like you were saying, he's not made these rookie mistakes.
He reminds me of Sargent and to a certain extent Albon in terms of their demeanor towards Formula One. It's like they're ready. They have the demeanor that says, yes, I get this and I know what's expected of me. And the truth is, yes, he's got a lot of friends at Red Bull. He sits on the pit wall at Red Bull most weekends when he's not racing in Japan. Yeah. So they know him very well, and he knows the data very well, including Max Verstappen's. So,
that's a key thing. These guys mainly come up through F3, F2, Japanese forms of racing. They're used to this whole process. Granted, they're not used to the Formula One way of doing things, which is very different and much more intense. But they have a notion, and if they're properly prepared by the teams, they're ready to go. They're not just some kid who walked in off the street and said, "Hey, what's going on?"
Ironically, he and Yuki shared a flat in Milton Keynes before Yuki was yanked to Italy to pull him together because he hated the food, hated Milton Keynes. Liam was able to, but right by the factory, the pair of them would go every day to the Red Bull factory. So they are well versed on all things Red Bull.
Hey, Chris, I want to ask you, I noticed all the Haas F1 team mechanics wearing black sweatbands. Is it just because of the heat, or is there some significance, or is it just noticed they're all wearing the same ones?
I'm pretty sure that's just because of the heat. There's been nothing communicated about any issues at Haas along any tribute to anything or anyone. I think it's just a heat issue. One of the things they also do is they have a menthol spray that the mechanics can have within the garage if they need it, and that'll help cool their core body temperature. Like, as in, it's a placebo effect, so it doesn't actually do it, but it makes them think it has. It just helps them feel a bit more comfortable when they're working in such tough conditions. So, all these little details, sweatbands being one of them. As I said about drivers being sprayed themselves. I talked about how late someone will get in their car. Fernando Alonso just walked past me from the front of the grid. George Russell's already in his car. Alonso's not got his race suit properly on yet. He's just walking back to his car now, leaving it to the last possible second to jump in.
Wow.
Because it's just going to be so uncomfortable for them. Should be a bit of a quicker race today with the new layout, but it's going to be uncomfortable for them.
Hey, Chris, I want to ask you, I saw another F1 journalist, I think it was Adam Cooper, maybe, talking about potential rumors about the Andretti Global. Have you heard anything new on that?
Nothing new, no. Very much a waiting game. I did do some digging actually earlier this weekend. Those involved are just waiting to hear a little bit more in terms of what the FIA are going to do. still sounds very much like the FIA will say yes, that they will put it forward and say that you can, that Andretti can, I guess, tick enough of the boxes to be on the grid, but that then it will come down to whether Formula One itself does a commercial deal with them. But that there seemed to be a little bit of a softening on that approach when I spoke to someone from Formula One actually on Friday, that they were kind of like, well, we'll see. We'll have that discussion. Sorry if my voice is just lowered, but I finally got off the grid so I can hear myself. So they said, we'll see whether there is a deal to be done there that makes sense for the whole sport. Whereas before, we've kind of heard them say, no, it's unlikely. So that just felt like it's a small but significant softening of a stance there. And we could see it happening. So, we're still in that waiting phase. But from the Andretti side, I understand that they're actually comfortable at the moment with it taking a long time, because they're happiest if it's been extremely thorough, because they feel like they've done absolutely everything they need to do to get approval, so that they don't want the FIA, for example, saying, yep, that's fine, and from turning around a bit further down the line and saying, well, what about this? You didn't actually look into this, and therefore we're not going to, we're not going to take it seriously. So, they're still comfortable at the moment on their timeline. They'll keep waiting, but they are very much just in a waiting game. It's been a number of weeks since they've had to send anything to the FIA or Formula One themselves.
I mean, last time I heard is that Andretti, everything they were saying leading up to this was that we're still doing everything we need to be doing at this point in the background. So, Chris, are you still hearing similar?
Yes, they're still recruiting. They're working in terms of recruiting aerodynamicists, designers, people that you need to have in place to design and build a car, that they just have to move for already. But when it comes to the actual race operations team, they haven't really pushed too hard on that yet, unless it's positions that they know that they can guarantee people jobs if for some reason it doesn't come off. Obviously there's other Andretti Autosport or Andretti Global, as they're now called, entries in different categories. So they're building things up on stuff that requires it with the timeline to then be able to enter as early as 2025, and if not 25, then 26. And a number of aerodynamicists and designers are kind of happy to take that risk because they know it's the only way it's going to be successful. If you don't do it now, if you don't make that jump now, then you're just not going to end up on the grid.
I think that's critical. Absolutely critical that they proceed as though they're going to be on the grid.
I agree.
A conspiracy theorist would say, well, Formula One's just dragging it out to ensure that they are not competitive because they didn't have time to build a proper car. But that's just me. I think it's great.
I actually put that. I put that to the source. That's all I can really describe them as, working with Andretti. And that's where the comeback was. No, we're comfortable with them taking as long as they need. This isn't. They don't feel like it's dragging heels or trying to make lives difficult for them. If anything, they think it benefits them that they have answers to everything so far, and they hope they get asked more questions. They can give more answers so that it kind of strengthens their bid. So they're happy at this point.
Well, keep in mind they have access to a lot of experienced crewmen. I mean, they put as many as 6 cars in the Indy 500, so they've got plenty of experienced people in the pit lane.
Jonathan, you had a comment?
Yeah, just remember, this is the toughest physical race. We've talked about it beforehand, but a great stat I got from F1 TV was, imagine, 3 to 4 kilograms of sweat. That's 10 cans of Coke or the beverage of your choice. Put them on your coffee table while you're watching and realize how much sweat and tears each driver is going through to get to the end of the race. Predictions?
Predictions for me? I was going to save mine for last, but no, because I'm going to predict Max Verstappen, Carlos Sainz, and George Russell.
Russell to win, medium tires, 2 sets of, only man has it, and there's going to be a safety car, therefore he can use them, so he's going to 2-stop. Second will be Carlos Sainz, third will be Lewis Hamilton.
Bob?
I'll take Sainz, Russell, and Norris. And after what John said, I'm reminded that we're going to Japan next, and that's where they sell a soft drink in cans called Sweat.
Yes, they do.
All right, we're almost out of time.
I've been drinking that here, Pocari Sweat. I've been drinking lots of here.
That's the one.
It's helpful. But I'm copying Bob. He's gone with my top 3 as well.
Okay.
I'm going Sainz, Russell, Norris.
All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget, stay right here for the race and come back after the race for our post-race show. Thanks, everybody. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you after the race.